Okay, before we get, like, way too sidetracked on whatever we get sidetracked on, um, as, like, a brief introduction, I guess, why did you want to write this series? Right now, there's only 2 parts. I don't know if you have any of the other parts, like, in progress or not.
They're all done.
Right.
I have people, and there's a couple of people who want to work with me on translating them into different languages, hence why
Okay.
I'm holding them at the moment, because I don't feel like it's fair to publish the English versions first and then follow up with the other language ones later, because language is also accessibility.
Right.
And so I'm waiting on to get in contact with them a little bit more and iron things out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. I guess, yeah, so why did you want to write a series on the state of accessibility? Like, what prompted you to sit down and not just write one, but is it a 7-part series?
It's well, it's 7 originally, but then there was like a thank you post that I wrote to some people who had really reached out, so it's now 8.
Okay.
That one is published.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 currently, and so then the rest are coming. But yeah, so I guess we should start from the beginning, right?
Right.
To kind of explain where I came from in the Linux world of things. So I like to say I started using Linux before using Linux was cool.
Right.
I started with an old Samsung NC10 netbook back in 2009.
Okay. You've been doing this for a while then.
I've been doing this for a bit, yeah. And it was kind of by accident. So my parents bought me this netbook that I could use because they were quite ahead of the curve. They understood that technology was going to be essentially the future for people who were visually impaired or otherwise, disabled in some way to interact with the world. So they were quite forward thinking about that, and they got this netbook, and they didn't really know too much about technology, and so they just assumed it would come with Windows like everything else did. It didn't. It was supposed to, but it came with Debian 8, I think. No, it wouldn't have been 8.
No, 8
It
was
would have been 5.
Okay, yeah, something in that range.
Something in that range, yeah.
Debian 5 released in... Initially released 2009. Yep, February 2009.
So it was 4 or 5. And so I was slightly in the dark as to what to do, because everything that people were telling me was Windows stuff, and I had a bash prompt. With no way to read it, because obviously the other person didn't think to enable speech. So I started, looking around, and I sat down with my dad and we looked up. We didn't really know what Debian was, so we looked up Debian first. What is this thing? What is Debian GNU/Linux? What is this? What does this do? What is this thing? So we looked it up, and we found out about Speak Up and getting software speech output and all this stuff, and we eventually got it enabled. But I still didn't have a graphical environment for a while. I was doing everything from Bash, like from a Bash shell. So I learned the command line there. And then there was a project called Vinux that existed for a while, which was a distribution made just for the blind.
How do you spell that?
Vinux. The website still exists.
Vinux. Okay, let's see if we can find it.
Let's see if we can find that.
Vinux. I found the Wikipedia page for it. That's good enough.
There you go, that'll do. It's a distribution made for the blind, essentially, and it was based originally on Ubuntu. No, it wasn't originally based on Ubuntu. I can't remember what it was originally based on, but eventually it became based on Ubuntu 12.04. And then eventually 14.04. And it was designed to be as accessible as it was possible for Linux to be at the time.
Right.
And it got the job done, right? I could do stuff. I could look at the internet. I could do my, homework on it. It was fine. Um, and it actually came up with an installer that spoke and everything, and it was fine. And then I kept using Linux. I eventually did have to learn Windows, but I kept using Linux myself because
Right.
I was used to it and I liked it. And there was always this thing, even then, of what updates are going to break something next.
Right.
What's going to be broken? What am I not going to be able to do this time? What am I not going to be able to do this week? And a lot of that was based on a lot of that came from the fact that
What's that? I can hear something in the background.
sorry, hold on. My sister has decided that now is the perfect time to play really loud music. Great. See if I can make it go away. Sorry.
No, it's so good, so good. Sorry, I thought maybe it was like your phone or something.
No. There we go. I think it might be fixed now. I think that might have helped.
Yep. Okay, that should be better. Yeah.
Okay. Horrible rap music too. But I'm not into it at all.
Right.
Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, there was always this thing. They would prominently say on the Linux website, don't update anything because it will just explode in your face.
I see.
But you get to the point where you had to. And so it was like, what is going to break when I do this time? And then I learned about a project called Talking Arch.
Okay.
Which was literally just an accessible Arch Linux ISO. So it wasn't nothing special. It would just boot into an accessible ISO, which would have speech on boot. And so I installed Arch. Which went about as well as you expect it did.
For anyone who is kind of curious, that project appears to have now been folded into the main Arch Linux.
It has.
Which is cool.
But it wasn't then. And even now, it's kind of... They broke it in the latest ISOs.
Of course they did.
Yeah, now if you have multiple sound cards, I hope you enjoy rebooting until also finds the right one.
I see. Okay.
Yes, it's one of those.
So
I think we'll get onto that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I carried on using Linux, and I carried on using it, and I switched distros a lot. I have a lot of different machines running different distributions. I have a Fedora machine, I have an Arch machine, I have a Debian machine. I know, Debian. I have a Bedrock machine. And what I found was, while there was talk about accessibility, that seemed to kind of peter off around 2015, 2016. And it all just seemed to kind of degrade over time from there. But not in massive ways. It would something would break, and you have to find a workaround. And then Chromium and Electron apps started becoming a thing, and they weren't accessible unless you added a force render accessibility flag to their launchers. And then even then, that wouldn't work sometimes, and you need to set an environment variable that wasn't documented anywhere, and you'd only find by looking in the... I think LKML was where I found a couple of them.
Right.
Because someone had just happened to write it down as having this enabled does this thing. And I was like, oh, this is dbus related, so maybe it'll fix this other thing. So yeah, I've also been lurking on the LKML for ages. Which is great for multiple reasons.
Hey, well, at least the LKML is like the archives are just a wall of text, so...
Yeah, exactly. It's really easy to find stuff. You need to find a patch set from 15 years ago because someone didn't add preempt flags for audio and you need them. Go find that patch set and revert the patch for yourself. I'm being slightly sarcastic. You shouldn't actually have to do that, but it does happen.
Have to. You're right. You shouldn't have to.
But it does happen sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept using it, and things kept breaking, and the discussion was there,
Mm-hmm.
but it was more about how do we make workarounds for this brokenness.
Right.
And what really happened to set me off, what really got me mad, was I was trying to install Ubuntu for someone else who was switching to Linux.
Do you remember what version this was?
And 2404. This was recent.
Okay. Oh, okay.
This
Really
was
recent.
Yeah, this is what tipped me over the edge from, oh, I guess this is just where we are, to no, this is unacceptable. I'm really mad now.
Right.
And I wanted to start them on Ubuntu. And there's a lot of people who are going to say, oh, canonical evil, Snap's evil. Okay, I might agree with you. In fact, I definitely agree with you. But it's a very beginner-friendly thing. If they need to Google something, they can Google it and don't have to call me every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I defaulted to it. And it took me a while to get it installed for a start, because the installer just is horrible. Basically almost impossible to navigate. You can do it, but like you got to remember where you are. If you want to do anything custom with any partitions at all, like put /home on a different partition, no, not accessible. Can't do it. Unless you do it with like gdisk first.
Am I remembering correctly
then,
that they recently have like changed out the installer with the newer one?
They did. They switched to a Flutter-based installer.
Right.
And Flutter, Google should be publicly shamed for Flutter every day. Like you should put up banners saying that Flutter is garbage every day. Because it is.
Okay.
It is horrendous. It is the least accessible UI kit I've ever seen.
Do you want to expand upon that?
So it's basically it makes everything so obscure.
Right.
And just does not have like decent documentation, at least not that I could find. There are some people that have somehow magically made it work. Kind of ish. I don't know how. Those people are just geniuses, okay? I don't they're just really clever people that have managed to work around the fact that there's just no there's really very little support for keyboard navigation. If you want to label buttons in like a dynamic way, there's no real way to do that that I know of. And again, I kind of just looked at it and went, I'm never using this, so then never looked at it again.
Right, that's fair.
Right? So again, I could be incorrect. I want to just, I also quickly, I should have said this at the start. Everything I say here is my own opinion and my own experiences. Like, there are things that could be incorrect because I just haven't found the magic incantation yet.
Sure. Totally fair.
So I have to be fair, and like I could get things wrong because I just haven't tried hard enough.
Yeah, that's fair. But it would be nice if some of these things just didn't require as much trying and were just kind of nicely working.
Exactly. But no, Flutter is terrible. They switched their installer to it, and so it kind of rendered it unusable. Radio buttons are reported as checkboxes. Why?
What?
They aren't. They are completely different element types. What is going on?